Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming to this exciting event this morning. My name is Connor Reed, and I'm your town administrator here in Easton. And this morning, I'm also your MC for the program. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Mike Keneally, the Secretary of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to Easton. More specifically, Secretary, welcome to the Five Corners, and really specifically, welcome to McGuire's, which is a local institution and second home to so many people in this room. Thank you to Neil, the owner of McGuire's, for hosting us and for your generosity to have us here today. So in just a few moments, Secretary Keneally is going to be making an exciting announcement about the MassWorks infrastructure program and the future of the Five Corners sewer project here in Easton. Before I go any further, I do want to take just 2 moments to recognize so many of you in the room today and thank you. Today, we have with us Senator Michael Brady, Senator Walter Timilty, Representative Shauna O'Connell, we have Dottie Fulgenetti, Chair of the Easton Select Board, Greg Strange, Chair of the Easton Planning Board, Stephanie Danielson, the Director of Planning and Economic Development, with Neil Levine, the owner of McGuire's and a founding member of the Furnace Village Neighborhood Collaborative, which so many of you are here today. We have Walter Marioni here on behalf of Conoco Builders, and Dale Carrister, another founding member of the Furnace Village Neighborhood Collaborative. The town appreciates all of your attendance here today, and I would be remiss, especially with the audience we have in this room, not to take this opportunity to once again thank all of our neighbors and business owners in the Five Corners neighborhood for your tremendous patience and support during this construction project. We appreciate it tremendously. So this morning you're going to hear a lot about economic development, housing, infrastructure, and frankly, from people who will probably do a better and more interesting job talking about that stuff than I would. And so I asked myself last night, and then this morning in the shower, and then again this morning as I drove in, what do I have to add to that, and how do I tell the story about this project and tell the story about Five Corners? And I realized that the story of this project and of Five Corners is all of those things. It is about development, it is about housing and infrastructure, but really it's about two fundamental things, and that's community and opportunity. The Five Corners Sewer Project is the largest infrastructure project in this town's history. It's the third sewer project that we've undertaken this decade, and it's larger in scale, scope, and ambition than the first two of those combined. After working with our neighbors in Mansfield and our partners at Avalon Bay to bring the first part of this job forward in 2017, the voters of this community voted to appropriate over $13 million in 2018 to bring this project forward to completion. In the less than 18 months since then, we've gone from appropriation to beginning construction, completing the waterworks job on Foundry Street, and completing most of the sewer so far, and we are on schedule to complete this job next summer. During that same time, the community rallied around this project, and the establishment and formation of the Furnace Village Neighborhood Collaborative ushered in a new era and a new high watermark for collaboration and cooperation between the town, neighbors, and businesses to work together on a project of this size. Together, the community worked to establish a district improvement financing program for the Five Corners that will help reinvest future growth from this project for critical capital needs that we know this area needs, and importantly, reducing the cost of this project and reducing the cost of betterments for everyone who lives in this neighborhood. After years of constrained potential due to the lack of on-site sewer, the Five Corners Sewer Project will create opportunity not only for economic development, but for the reuse and expansion of our existing properties and for the protection of our environment. Already, the Five Corners Sewer has attracted tens of millions of dollars in private investment for housing, to create opportunity for compact neighborhoods and rental housing for folks who already live in Easton who might want to downsize after their kids move out or when they retire, and for new residents who fall in love with Easton and all the treasures that it offers so that they can invest and be a part of this great community. The Five Corners Sewer Project has attracted new businesses, with restaurants opening across the street and down the road shortly. It will afford opportunity for vacant and underutilized properties on this stretch that have not been able to realize their potential due to the lack of that infrastructure. And it will create the opportunity to protect the environment by replacing inadequate on-site sewer options and making available 165,000 gallons a day of treatment capacity for more than 300 residential and commercial properties. As the construction crews outside illustrate, the story here is not yet done, and yet I think we can already see so much opportunity. And I want to say thank you to everyone here, and thank you to the Secretary and to our partners, and know that that opportunity is only made possible by the community and by so many of you in this room, your dedication, your devotion to this project, and seeing it through in a collaborative way. And so without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Secretary Keneally to announce an exciting new opportunity for the Five Corners and to usher in the next chapter of this incredible story, working together with MassWorks. Secretary Keneally.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Great to be here in Easton. So I'm here to announce an award through our MassWorks infrastructure program of $1.5 million. I think I have a check here somewhere, but this is for unlock planned housing and future commercial development in the Five Corners District. You know, MassWorks is probably the most powerful, most flexible tool in our economic development toolbox. It funds public infrastructure projects all across the state that's meant to unlock private development. And you know, people ask me all the time, what does MassWorks fund? And it funds sewer and water and lights and streets, and it funds the basic public infrastructure upon which all private development requires. But what MassWorks really funds is what Connor said, it really funds community. You know, it's a chance for our community to come together and say, you know, this project is important to us, it's important to our aspirations, our future, it's important to what we want to be as a city or town. And it really relies on this incredible level of collaboration, which you heard about, of businesses and developers in the town coming together to say, this is important to us, and we want the state's partnership in helping to make that happen. It's a wonderful program. Now, since the start of the Baker-Polito administration, we've given out about $400 million of MassWorks grants in over close to 200 projects now all across the state. We've unlocked about 14,000 new housing units, millions of square feet of commercial office space, tens of thousands of jobs. It's a really great tool in our toolbox, and it's wonderful to be here today. It was great to hear the story of how this came together. You know, this is a competitive program. We got probably 92 applications for 30-something awards we're going to make this year. So these are hard dollars to get, and what makes for a winning application is the type of collaboration you talked about. People really coming together in the community to say, this is important to us. We want the state's support, and I love hearing these stories. Now I've got responsibility for housing and economic development, and I love awards like this that really kind of capitalize on both areas. The level of commercial development here will be really interesting, and the housing, man, we need more housing across the Commonwealth. We're in the middle of a housing crisis in Massachusetts, and initiatives like this that can help us build more and more housing units, and for a community to meet the needs of its citizens. As you talked about, folks may not want to be in a large single-family house anymore. They may want to be in a multifamily development and stay in their home community. That's really important stuff. We have a great need for affordable housing all across the state. So it's really wonderful to see this level of collaboration and see a product that will catalyze so much development of housing and so much development here in the local economy. We are just wrapping up our economic development plan for the second term. At the start of every new term of a governor, we're required to come up with an economic development plan. And one of the four key pillars of that plan will be ongoing investments in our communities. At the end of the day, we view ourselves as partners with our cities and towns, helping them realize their development aspirations. And this will continue to be an ongoing focus for us as we go forward now here in the second term. And I do, of course, want to call out my colleagues in government here from the legislature, Senator Timilty, and just recognize that everything we do in economic development is in partnership with the legislature. So last year, in 2016, the governor signed a $1 billion economic development bill. In 2018, a $1.1 billion bill. That provides the funds for the MassWorks program. And that's only possible with collaboration with the legislature. So wonderful to see the senator here today. And it really speaks to, again, this idea of collaboration and partnership and getting things done. It really is, at the end of the day, in Massachusetts, how we act and how we work and how we think and how we plan. So congratulations to the town. It's a wonderful project and great to be here. Thank you. I think I'm supposed to do this.
I think I'll take the check at any time.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much, Secretary Keneally. So this time I'd like to welcome Senator Walter Timmelty up to make a few remarks. Senator.
Thank you very much, Connor, and good morning to you all. I must say, Connor, I don't want to get in the middle of a check presentation, though, so feel free to defer my role until after the check. But in all seriousness, Mr. Secretary, you talked about collaboration, and when we talk about collaboration, we also talk about the synonym teamwork. The town of Easton's a wonderful team. Wonderful team. Our quarterback, of course, with our legislative delegation is Claire Cronin. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of Claire Cronin and Mike Brady and Shauna O'Connell to talk about the teamwork that we're so proud of each and every year when we vote to fund the MassWorks grants in the legislature, because we know that in the hands of people like Secretary Keneally and before himself Secretary Ash, that this money will be well spent to unlock economic development and spur it on, and nothing could be truer than here in the great town of Easton. This is a dynamic town with wonderful people, and if you invest in Easton, dividends will come. Dividends will come. So I must say, always bet on the people of Easton and its great leadership with its select board and its economic development team. Things are coming in a wonderful way, and I look forward to what's going to happen, not just in this part of Easton, but in the rest of this great town. And this town is an economic engine for southeastern Massachusetts. So, Mr. Secretary, thank you for recognizing that. And on behalf of Claire and Mike and Shauna, we are very proud to work for this town and to help spur this town on to even greater heights. I thank you all. Hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, I would like to invite the chair of the Easton Select Board, who's been working on so many of these important projects for so many years, Dottie Fulgenetti, to come up and make a few remarks.
Thanks everyone for being here today for this very important event. If we look back on the history of a lot of these communities, you'll see that they started with a village center and they had housing, and that's where their businesses were. That's where their amenities, their livelihood, and their transportation were. So what we're really doing when we look at opportunities like this is really transforming these same villages into the 21st century. And it's really important that we have good leadership, strong leadership to get us there, but also really that the community of Easton understands how important this is. And it's a real balance for us because we are a rural community and we want to preserve the land characteristics and the open space, but at the same time we don't want to be left behind as other communities forge forward with economic development. So when the people of this town vote for projects like this, it's great to see. They understand and value that these are neighborhoods, these are families sitting down doing homework at the kitchen table in the new housing. These are new businesses that bring new tax revenue to our town, and this is what keeps us a vibrant community where people want to live. So thank you to everybody involved in this. Thank you to our legislative delegation and the secretary and his staff for making this happen.
Thank you, Dottie. We have a good list to get through here, so I'm going to try and keep it moving. Next, I'd like to welcome the chair of our planning board, Greg Strange, if I could. There he is. Let's come up and make a few remarks, please.
It's always dreadful when they give you 2 minutes. And first, thank you, Secretary Keneally, and our governor and our representative leaders. Dollars are so hard to come by, and we truly appreciate it. And for 13 years, I've been on about 4 or 5 different committees in town, and so often people say, you need to get a life. Or, why are you on these committees? And I would say, it's so important, I think. We're a town of Easton. We're 24,000. And I think it's so important for the residents, not just the elected and appointed officials, but the residents to have a say in the land use and the direction of our town. And so I think why we're here to celebrate today, I think is a perfect example of that. I look at Dale Carrister and Neil Levine. Dale met probably 20 years ago when our kids played on some of the same sports teams. And Neil has added on to his house with the amount of money my children have spent on honey hots in this restaurant. But coach my kids in cross country. But never really knew them through planning efforts. And so often when something, I always say, when do people get involved in planning? When it's in their backyard, because that's what I can always tell when at planning board when we have a big crowd. I'm like, oh, someone's putting in a new neighborhood. But instead of storming town hall and instead of ripping people online, these gentlemen, along with everybody else in the neighborhood, got involved. They got educated on the issues, got a voice, and it was really nice to see them team up with Stephanie and Connor. And Dottie and her board, and bring not just results in this grant today, but helping get the diff through and helping educate the town. What we've been working on a planning board for the last 5 or 10 years is working on our 3 neighborhoods, our 3 town centers, and Five Corners is one of those. And such a unique 29,000 cars a day cut through from 495 to 24. So let's take advantage of those. Let's create some small, diverse types of housing. Let's reinvigorate our commercial centers. Things are certainly changing with the internet, but we have a fantastic opportunity. And hopefully this will be a groundhog scenario, Mr. Secretary. Thank you. So in that, we need to, we got the sewer, now we need sidewalks, this is such a unique corridor. Not only do we get all that traffic, this is right in the middle of our green neighborhood, stitches together a lot of the 4,000 acres of green space that we've created. There's historical neighborhoods, and then there's ample opportunity for creative commercial and residential. So hopefully this will be the first of a few visits, and maybe we'll fire up Devon's for you next time. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. At this time, I would like to welcome the Director of Planning and Economic Development, Stephanie Danielson, up to make a few remarks. And before she gets to the podium, just also thank Stephanie for her 13 years of service to Easton. This will be the last grant award that Stephanie joins us at. She has been instrumental in planning for this process, working with all of you and working with this neighborhood between this grant and the DIF to identify and bring more than $6 million to this project that will not be paid with betterment. So with that, I would love for you to come up and say a couple of words. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you for making it a little bit harder to talk right now. The opportunity to help a community realize what its future will be is what people like me, it's the reason that we go into planning and into this profession. When we conducted the Five Corners visioning session a year ago, the residents and business owners described what they wanted this district to be in the future. They envisioned a vibrant, workable, mixed-use community where people can live, conduct business, work, and play. I can't tell you how proud I've been to work for a community that values forward planning and continually commits to making the type investments that help those plans and dreams become a reality. It's very exciting to be here today to celebrate what happens when the state, local government, and private developers working together can do to invest in a brighter future for the community. Thank you, Secretary Keneally, Deputy Secretary Vega, Jackie, all our legislative delegates, Easton's governing and administrative body, and the residents of Easton for caring about your community and making this commitment to its future. Thank you, and thank you for a great 13 years.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, I would like to welcome our host this morning and one of the founding members of the Neighborhood Collaborative that we've touched on so many times already, Neil Levine. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. On behalf of myself and my partner Michael, who's in the back of the room, and my partner Patrick, who couldn't be here this morning, I'd like to welcome all of you to McGuire's. And while we don't live in the neighborhood, we consider the Five Corners our home. For the past 27 years, we have built a life here. We've made friends and many long-term relationships with people that are in this room. We are extremely grateful for the blessed life that this village has given us. And we are extremely grateful to our neighbors, especially my colleague Dale Carister, who showed up at meetings, made phone calls, wrote letters, and spent countless hours working with the entire select board and Dottie and Connor to get the MassWorks grants approved. Thank you all for the help you provided. And we're especially grateful to Secretary Keneally, Assistant Secretary Vega, and Jackie, and all of our state representatives and officials who worked to ultimately consider us and finally get the MassWorks grants approved. Thank you very much for that. Look around you. When you leave here today, look to your left, look to your right, and look up above this very building that you sit in. Look at the empty storefronts. Look at the abandoned properties. Look at the undeveloped properties. The MassWorks grant is a game changer for us. It's a game changer for businesses, but most importantly, it's a game changer for many of you who are sitting in this room tonight. The people that live in the condos, the people that live in the houses, the people that are on fixed incomes, the single moms that are struggling to survive. It's a game changer for the people that work up in Shaw's, the guy who's setting up my kitchen right now, the dishwasher, providing them housing. The MassWorks grant is going to free up much needed capital, and that capital will directly benefit housing, the environment, and the infrastructure of the economic health of not just the Five Corners neighborhood, but the entire town of Easton and the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you very much for awarding that grant to us.
I wasn't lying when I said other people were going to do a much better job, right? and much more exciting job talking about the impact of this than me. I was thinking of you, Neil. Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Walter Mirioni up on behalf of Conoco Builders, who will be one of our new neighbors in this area. Walter.
Good morning, everybody. Boy, I don't know how you follow that. Neil's passion and his style, his dressing style is something I certainly don't have either of. But in all sincerity, Neil, for what you've done for this community, and this was not part of anything I planned on saying, but you've done a lot for this community, not only through McGuire's, but as what you've done for children in coaching and in other relationships that you've established. You're the best. Everything you saw from me. So, my name is Walter Mirioni. I'm an attorney. I'm an almost lifetime resident of Easton. Served on the Board of Appeals for 20 years. So I've had a lot of interaction with the town in many different ways. But today I'm speaking on behalf of a client named Rick Lincoln. Rick Lincoln is the owner of Conoco Builders. And I'm going to tell a very quick story that's going to give a sort of a smaller and more personal indication of this whole theme of collaboration and public-private partnership. Rick Lincoln was approached 3 or 4 years ago by a real estate broker that he had done a lot of business with about the idea of buying the old foundry site. The old foundry site, I think everybody knows, is right up the street. There was a lot of great things that came out of that site, but there's a lot of negativity established or attached to it as well. And Rick had successfully completed a development in Easton, and he recognized this opportunity in Easton, but was also looking elsewhere for a site where he could develop this vision that he had for moderately sized homes that were moderately priced. He knew there was a need for it in the market, but he couldn't find any place. So when the site was brought to him, he instantly was excited. We got involved in it, we did a lot of due diligence, and quite frankly, it didn't take long to become skeptical. A lot of the things that are required to support a development of that site didn't exist. There was no zoning in the town of Easton that would allow for that, never mind in the district. Sewer was talked about, but sewer was a long way away. The sewer that was being talked about at the time was very expensive. There were other infrastructure problems. So we decided to slow down, take a deep breath, and come to town hall, meet with Connor's predecessor, and then with Connor. We involved very early, or the town involved very early, Greg Strange and Stephanie Danielson. Their enthusiasm, their vision, their recognition of the need and of this site being a great place for Rick's vision. Quite frankly, a lot of their changes that they made to the concept, constructive criticisms, really enthused Rick, got him excited. And Rick did something that, for those of you that are in the development business, know never happens. He jumped in, he purchased property for cash, no bank financing, with no approvals in place. Not even minimum zoning that would allow for his project to be constructed. No fallback plan. And the reason he was willing to do that was because of the enthusiasm and the leadership of the three individuals I just met up at Town Hall. Since that time, we've worked very closely with them. In, I want to say, spring of 2017, and Greg, I'm sure, is going to correct me if I'm wrong, town meeting behind Greg's work and Stephanie's work, passed an overlay district that allowed the zoning for the project to move forward. We have had an uncountable number of meetings with the folks at Town Hall, continuing to develop this concept. We are now at the point where hopefully before January 1, there will be formal plans submitted to the town. And if things go well, not long after, the project will be moving forward, will be under construction. We don't know the number of units yet. There are some issues out there that are still being worked through. It's going to be anywhere from in the high 40s to low 60s, single-family homes, again, right down the street. There are a lot of benefits to the site, but one of the biggest benefits is the style of housing at the price that it creates. So none of that would happen without the folks in this room. On behalf of Rick, we want to thank everybody that's participated, that's helped, that we'll continue to work with. Rick's really excited about the project. But again, I really want to thank Greg, Stephanie, and Connor in no order, because without their leadership in this town, without their vision, without their cooperation, Rick Lincoln's project never happens. And without the rest of you in this room, the project never happens due to the scope and the size of what we have going on out here. So again, thank you all, and I hope you all have a good weekend.
Thank you, Walter. So we have one last speaker that I'd like to introduce, another founding member of the Furnace Village Neighborhood Collaborative, Dale Carrister.
Thank you, Connor, and it's truly a privilege to have the opportunity to be one of the voices to speak on behalf of the folks who call the Furnace Village and Five Corners area their home, where they live, where they work. Who are we? Well, by the numbers, we're about 75, 77 single-family homes, some double two-family homes. Over 190 of us are condominium families, and we have businesses and commercial properties. Who are we? We are families, single household families. We are single parent households. We are folks who are struggling to keep our kids in college and pay college tuition. We're elderly, we're fixed income, we are a small business. We found ourselves a year ago with a very daunting prospect of the town's largest infrastructure project coming through our neighborhood, our homes. We were faced with an even more daunting prospect of the sewer betterment assessments in order to make this happen. We had folks come together and say, how can I stay in Easton? Can I stay in my home with these expected costs? A little over a year ago, our folks came together, meeting first in Barb and John's home, sitting around their dining table to figure out how we were going to deal with this problem. Our folks made a decision to come together and to work together. To work together and with the town. What we found at Town Hall was an open door and a welcoming attitude to hear our concerns. We had meetings with Connor, with Michael, with Stephanie, with David Field. They not only heard our concerns, but even more importantly, we found out that they had already taken steps to address those concerns. Put an extraordinary amount of work in for the District Improvement Financing Program and the application for the MassWorks grant that brings us here today. We found at town meeting that our fellow Eastonites unanimously supported the passage of the District Improvement Financing Program to extend a helping hand to us. We found with our state, with our Commonwealth, the awarding of the grant that brings us here today. We find ourselves now that those folks who are worried as to whether they can stay and continue to invest in their homes and their businesses can do so. We found something much more than that. It's not just the numbers and what the dollars mean to everybody. We found ourselves connected as a neighborhood, as a town, as a community. We find ourselves committed to continue to work with the town as one town coming together to work towards common purposes. We are committed to continue to invest in making this a vibrant and wonderful place to work. Connor, Michael, Stephanie, David, Dottie, the entire Board of Selectmen, Secretary Keneally, Senator Timilties, Senator Brady, Representatives O'Connell and Cronin. What you do makes a difference. What you have done has made a huge difference for us. So on behalf of all those for whom I have the privilege of being a voice, thank you.
Thank you, Dale. So that's our program for today. I had obviously a little bit of notes here that I was going to try and work off of, but I really am so encouraged being here. It's so wonderful to be here. Like Stephanie said, a lot of people who volunteer, who do this for work, we get up and do this because we believe in what we're doing, and we believe that there's value in people working together. I think it's, I won't ask anyone to turn the news on, but there's a lot of cynicism today of what we can all do to affect our own governance, and I think all of you should be very, very proud of what you have done, because to Dale's point, to Neil's point, to the point somebody made in this room, when something big is happening in your neighborhood, you got together and said, well, what can we do about this to affect a positive change? And you worked together with people, you did the work, you made phone calls, you wrote emails, you wrote, Secretary Keneally, I won't put you on the spot, but I don't know if you've gotten 150 letters of support with the MassWorks grant.
We got a few.
Yeah. I think it's so wonderful to see that it's not just, they're not just symbolic or empty gestures. We're not sitting in meetings with you for venting sessions and then not moving on it. We're doing our absolute best every day to do what's right, what we believe is right for the town, and to work with you to do that. And your work with all of us in this room together will be bringing more than $6 million into this project, and that's $6 million that will not be in betterments. And so thank you all for all of your work. You should be very proud of what you've done. Thank you, Secretary Keneally, Assistant Secretary Vega, Jackie, everyone from MassWorks, our state delegation, and thank you to the Baker Polito administration for again choosing to bet on Easton. It's always the right thing to do, and have a great weekend, everyone.